Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing some Invoked Shaddoll Dogmatika test hands. I'm really excited to show you guys this deck because this was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Jin. And this deck is an absolutely crazy awesome fusion deck that makes use of all three of the engines between Invoke, Shaddoll, and Dogmatika, which is just absolutely crazy. I love the way this deck plays. It can make some really insane boards, and it makes use of those engines to their max potential. So, without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell near soon, come part notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like in your name description every single video, getting a signed card to the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron, along with test hands. And definitely give Jen some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such a crazy awesome deck. So, let's get straight on into this one. So, this deck is a really awesome deck. I love the way it plays. It actually just makes all these crazy hands, and all the time that I've been playtesting it, I have never had a dead hand, which is really insane because like sometimes like even like 1 in 10, maybe 1 in 20 hands you get a really bad one, but this deck in like 1 in like 30 like maybe is what I usually average on like bad test hands with this deck. And I've done a lot of testing ever since the 10s came out of this deck. This is the deck that I've been playtesting over and over and over again, and it's just absolutely good because this deck gets so many searches. If you open up Shaddoll Fusion, you go into some really insane plays, and it just is such a fun deck. So if you guys want to check out the deck profile, it is down in the description down below. But now that we've pile shuffled the deck, as you guys know, dad rule number 1, we're going to shuffle the deck up really quick and see what we can do. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up, cut the deck one time, and see what we can actually draw out. So we're going to go ahead and draw into a copy of Invocation, Shaddoll Fusion, Nadir's Servant, a copy of Alistair, and a copy of Magical Meltdown. As you guys can see, crazy hand right off the bat. If we're going second, we have the copy of the Shaddoll Fusion to drop against the opponent. If they stop that, we can just go into the Dogmatika route where we go, or not Dogmatika, Invoker route where we can normal summon Alistair, or activate Meltdown to start off the baiting the opponent and to protect the copy of Shaddoll Fusion. And then finally, we can finish it all off with the copy of the Nadir's Servant to be able to draw out a copy of Ecclesia to special summon to our side of the field. But let's go ahead and show you guys the exact route. So, right off the bat, since we're going first, I'm going to activate the copy of Meltdown because it's going to protect all of our fusion summons. This deck is a deck, I'm going to tell you guys, I would not hesitate to carry this deck to a regionals, even like any kind of tournament. Literally any kind of tournament I would carry this deck to. So, after we get that copy of Alistair, we're then going to do what we always do with the deck and normal summon Alistair to our side of the field. Now that we've normal summoned Alistair to our side of the field, we're going to get a search of Invocation. Now, once we get that copy of Invocation to our hand, we're going to link the copy of Alistair away, and we're going to get our light monster on our side of the field, which is actually a Magistus monster, the copy of Artemis. I use Artemis in my build because it takes any level 4 spellcaster to summon this card. So basically, any Shaddoll can summon this card, or Alistair can summon this card. So we're going to go ahead and summon out the copy of our Magistus, a Moon Maiden. So now that we summon that to our side of the field, we're going to use the copy of Invocation. And Invocation lets us fusion summon 1 fusion monster from our extra deck using monsters from our hand as fusion material. And if you're fusion summoning an invoked fusion monster, you can banish monsters from your field and or either player's graveyard. So we're going to go ahead and use both of these on our side of the field, or this in the graveyard and that on our field, to summon out a copy of Makaba to our side of the field. Now then, once we summon the copy of Makaba to our side of the field, we have the Invocation in the graveyard that we can resolve. That has the ability that you can target one of your banished Alistairs, shuffle this card into the deck, and if you do, add that card back to your hand. So we're going to shuffle this back into the deck, and then we're going to add our copy of Alistair back to our hand to set up for another play during the next turn. Now look at that. We started out with 5, now we have 7 cards. We've gone +2 just off of normal summoning an Alistair, which is really crazy. Then we're going to activate the copy of the Nadir's Servant. Nadir's Servant is going to let us grab from the deck a copy of Ecclesia, which Ecclesia is very important for this deck because Ecclesia is actually able to special summon herself to your side of the field, and she can't be destroyed by battle. She actually has some really amazing effects that she cannot be destroyed by battle with a monster that's special summoned from the extra deck, and you can only use the following effects of her once per turn. And then if a monster special summoned from the extra deck is on the field, which haha it is, we have the Invoked Makaba, it has the ability that you can special summon her from your hand. And then you can activate this effect to be able to add a Dogmatika card from your deck to your hand. So we're immediately going to special summon her in defense position, but for the rest of the turn, we can't go in for the extra deck, and the same thing is with the Nadir's Servant. Nadir's Servant has the ability that you can send a Dogmatika card from your extra deck to the graveyard, which we're actually going to send our copy of Titaniclad to the deck to the graveyard to be able to grab the copy of Ecclesia from the deck, and then special summon out the copy of Ecclesia to be able to add from deck to hand a copy of our Dogmatika Punishment. Because Punishment is going to give us all those plays that we can actually go into, because the copy of Ecclesia gives us a search of a Dogmatika card, except another copy of herself. So now that we're going to set this copy of the Dogmatika Punishment face down, and then during end phase, the copy of the Titaniclad will resolve, and it has the ability that if this card is in the graveyard, was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can add one copy, or you can special summon a Dogmatika card from your deck to your side of the field, which is a really cool effect to be able to add or special summon. I usually just add from deck to hand the copy of Fleur-de-Lis, because Fleur-de-Lis can actually negate something upon special summon. So this card actually comes in very, very handy to just add that card to hand, because this card has a really insane effect that it has basically the ability that during the main phase, if a monster special summon from the extra deck is on the field, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and since it's a quick effect, you can special summon it at any time, which is really good, and then you negate the monster's effect, which is really good to be able to do. You have the Macabre, which is a negate, you have a double pop with your copy of Dogmatika Punishment, and you have a special summon of the copy of Ecclesia just with this first hand. And if your opponent does special summon something from the extra deck, you can use the copy of Shaddoll Fusion during the next turn to get you some insane plays, and they can't even stop it because you have the effects of your Magical Meltdown, which is just really, really good. So that's it for the first test hand. Let's go into the next one and see what we can do. And when I say double pop with a copy of Dogmatika Punishment, you can actually send from your extra deck to the graveyard your copy of Elder Entity Nis, and this is a pop, and this is a pop. So you have a double pop off your copy of Dogmatika Punishment, which is usually what a lot of players actually use with the Dogmatika Punishment. But that effect of your copy of your Titaniclad mixed with the Nadir's Servant is just absolutely bonkers, being able to send a monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, and then add a Dogmatika monster or a Fallen of Albaz from your deck or graveyard to your hand whose attack is less than or equal to that monster is just crazy. Like, that is so good for this deck. I foresee this actually getting, like, maybe hit on the next list. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one. Go ahead and put our Moon Maiden back in the extra deck and double check that we have all the cards back, because I am using the same kind of sleeves for the extra deck, and we do have everything. And if you guys would like to check out the deck profile, it is down in the description down below. And let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck again and see what we can do. Now this deck, like I said, is just absolutely crazy. You play so many hand traps in it. Like, I'm surprised I never hit a hand trap with what I drew, because you play like 3 Ash, 2 Valor, and like 3 Imperm in this deck. So you have so many different cards to just deal with your opponent's fields that are just basically instant negates, which is just so good for this deck. So let's go ahead and shuffle it up and see what we can do for the next one. So for the next one, we're going to draw into an Ecclesia right off the bat, which is really good. Ash Blossom, Magical Meltdown, we're already set up, a copy of Invocation, and a copy of Fleur-de-Lis. So we can actually get some really good plays in here. So we're going to activate the copy of Meltdown right off the bat. Once you activate that copy of Meltdown, we're going to grab the copy of Alistair from the deck to our hand, and we're going to do kind of the same thing that we did last time, where we're just going to normal summon out the copy of Alistair, grab the copy of Invocation from the deck. If our opponent ashes this, we don't really care. It's totally fine, because usually I've seen a lot of players just ash the copy of Alistair, where they're like, okay, now they have just 1,000 attack point monster on their side of the field. They think they're okay, but they're not. But since we have the Invocation in our hand, we'd be fine. So at this point, you can basically link this away, summon out the copy of the Moon Maiden, activate the Invocation, banish both of these, and then the copy of Invocation will go to the graveyard, summoning Macabre to your side of the field again. And then now you can use the copy of the Invocation, shuffle it back into the deck, and then once we do, we're then going to get to add that copy of Alistair back to hand, which is really good. Now we can special summon out the copy of Ecclesia. Ecclesia's effect will go off, searching another monster from the deck, which we're actually going to add from deck to hand a different monster, because we actually play a copy of Maximus. I love Maximus. I've thought about playing Maximus at more than 1 in this deck, because Maximus is just such a good card. You banish a Fusion, Synchro, XZ, or Link monster from your graveyard to special summon this card from your hand, which is just really, really, really good to actually grab those cards. So now at this point, you're basically going to pass against the opponent. You're going to leave this hand alone. Cast against the opponent, you have the copy of Makaba, and you have the copy of the Ash that you can discard against your opponent, which is just really good. You can't go into the extra deck for the rest of the turn after you activate the Ecclesia, but that's fine. It's not even that big of a deal. But you have the Ash you can discard, and then you have the effect of your Dogmatika Fleur-de-Lis that you can special summon to your field. So when we go into the next turn, we're going to go ahead and draw into another copy of Ash, normal summon the copy of Alistair again, and then grab from deck that Invocation all over again. Doesn't matter if it gets ashed because we have the other Invocation in our hand already. So we're totally fine. We're going to grab that copy of Invocation. And since we have an Ash in the graveyard, depending on what our opponent has, depends on what we do. Because our opponent might have a monster in the graveyard that we want to grab and be able to actually fusion summon away for Invocation. That might be a Dark, that might be a Wind. It depends on what they're playing because we play a couple of different attributes to summon out. We play the Wind, we play the Dark, and we actually play the one that takes a fusion monster summon. So you can summon any of the three of these off of this play. It's totally up to you. I usually like to summon the Caliga because Caliga is really, really good in this particular situation. But it kind of depends on what you want to grab because you have these three really good options to actually go into. You can play Purgatrio if you want to in this build. I'm not because I don't see the real need for it in this particular build, but it is an option for you guys if you want to drop maybe like this one for it or maybe the Caliga for it. But this one I definitely recommend playing because you play actually wind attributes in this deck, and a Walking Book of Moon is just really, really good. So at that point, that's pretty much the end of that test hand. Let's go into the next one and see what we can do for the next one. As you guys can see, extremely consistent in what it's trying to do. Being able to get out your copy of Alistair to your side of the field. I mean, you're playing like 3 copies of Alistair, a copy of Terraforming, and 3 copies of Magical Meltdown, so you're pretty much guaranteed an Alistair in every hand. Like, you've got 7 copies of it, and we've drawn it every single hand. So let's go ahead and see what we can do again in the next one. Maybe this one will actually get some Shaddoll plays. I don't know. Let's see what we can do. And you even play Super Poly to deal with your opponent's cards, where you can use your copies of your Shaddoll monsters to go in and after your opponent's monsters. So we're going to draw into a copy of Triple Tactical Talents, a copy of Nidier's Servant, Terraforming, Ecclesia, and a copy of Shaddoll Fusion. So again, already set up. Go ahead and activate the copy of the Terraforming to be able to grab your copy from the deck of the, where is it? We're going to grab Meltdown. Meltdown will activate on our side of the field next. And then we're going to activate a copy or add a copy of Alistair. And then we normal summon the Alistair to our side of the field like so. And then we grab from the deck a copy of Invocation, which is really good just to grab that copy of Invocation from the deck. We do the same thing again, link it away, summon this to our side of the field. This will go to the graveyard or activate the copy of Invocation, fusion summon these away, summon the Makaba to our side of the field, send that to the graveyard, special summon the Ecclesia to our side of the field, Ecclesia effect will activate, and then once you activate the Ecclesia's effect, you're going to get to add from your deck to your hand a copy of Dogmatika Punishment, and then once we add that copy of Dogmatika Punishment from our deck to our hand, which I did not see, there it is, I actually skipped right over it, we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck. This will actually set to our side of the field, activate that copy of Nidier's Servant again, and then once you do that, you can use it to send the Titaniclad from deck to graveyard, and then add from your deck to your hand your copy of Fleur-de-Lis again to get that set up all over again. And it's just repeating every single time. You just about every single hand, you're going to get this really awesome setup to give you a monster negate, to give you your copy of a double pop, to get your copy of Makaba on your side of the field. And at any point, if your opponent were to hit this combo, you could activate the copy of Triple Tactical Talents, drop that card, and get a draw 2, which gets us into another copy of Triple Tactical Talents and gets us into a copy of Windy, which gets us into more plays because we have the copy of Shaddoll Fusion in our hand, which is just so, so good. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one. As you guys can see, it does it like this deck just does it all. Like, it's really, really good to go into. You can even grab back the copy of Alistair if you wanted to get it back again, because you're going to be able to use that effect all over again to be able to just go in for more plays. So let's go ahead and put that copy of Titaniclad back in the extra deck and shuffle up the deck again, because like I just showed you guys, it's really crazy to go in for. Again, the Super Poly is basically just here to be able to use with your copy of your Shaddoll monsters, with your opponent's monster to go into a copy of Winda during your opponent's turn, or go into a copy of a construct during your opponent's turn, which is hilarious to do. When your opponent thinks they're fine and they're like, hey, special summon, and then I activate Super Poly with a Shaddoll on the field, then they just are like, oh, well, there went my special summon. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can do for the next one. and see if we can get that copy of Alistair all over again. So we're going to go ahead and draw Super Polymerization this time, Triple Tactical Talents, Shaddoll Fusion, and a copy of Meltdown. See, we're just fine. You have the copy of Meltdown that you can activate, and then you grab Alistair, even if they hit you with it. Even if they stop it and they ash it. Triple tack to draw 2. And then when we draw 2, we hit another Meltdown, which is totally fine. You can only activate 1 Meltdown per turn. That will kind of stop the plays a little bit, but you still have plays that you can do because you have the Ash Blossom to stop them, and then the next turn you have the Meltdown. It is a little susceptible at the Meltdown to be able to stop that, but it's very easily, like, you played around, because if you do get stopped there, you can just draw 2 and hopefully you draw into something else. If they're going into the next turn though, you're just going to go crazy, because if they do stop this with a copy of Ash, we're going to go ahead and draw into a third Meltdown. They really want me to have Alistair. So we're going to go ahead and activate the copy of Meltdown here. Once we activate that copy of Meltdown right here, we're going to add that copy of Alistair the Invoker from deck to hand, normal summon him out to our side of the field, grab that copy of Invocation, and go into our plays all over again, like we did before, link him away, and go for those plays. Let's do one more and see if we can get something different this time, because as you guys can see, this deck is super consistent at trying to get to Alistair. We drew 3 Meltdowns. Holy crap. That's really crazy. They really wanted us to get to Meltdown. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for the next one and see what we can go into. You guys are probably not noticing that we're not seeing a lot of Shaddolls in our hand, but basically what you're doing is you're trying to use your Shaddolls to go in with Super Poly and with your copy of Shaddoll Fusion, and if you go second, to be able to summon out Construct to your side of the field, or summoning out another monster to your side of the field. So let's go ahead and see what we can do for this next one. So we're going to go ahead and draw Shaddoll Dragon, Beast, a copy of Triple Tactical Talents, Shaddoll Fusion, and a copy of Alistair. God, they really wants me to have Alistair every hand. We're going to go ahead and drop the copy of Alistair again. And then once we drop that copy of Alistair, you can add the copy of Invocation from deck to hand. You can then link him away, summon out the copy of the Moon Maiden again, activate Invocation, go ahead and banish both of these, summon out the Makaba again to be able to get that play rolling all over again to get that copy of our Makaba on our side of the field. And you can actually do a follow-up play this turn if you want to do something to stop your opponent. You can actually use the effect of the copy of Invocation, add this to hand, shuffle this back into the deck, which is going to set us up for next turn and set us up for a negate. And if you really want to push for it, you can actually activate Shaddoll Fusion as a normal polymerization, send these 2 to the graveyard. When you do, you're going to get to summon out from your extra deck a copy of Winda to your side of the field. The Winda will just stop your opponent from going in, and you have the copy of the Alistair and the copy of our Triple Tactical Talents to stop them, and the copy of the Shaddoll Beast will let us draw a card, which we're going to draw Super Poly, which can actually stop your opponent, because if you really need to stop them from summoning a card to your side of the field, you can actually use the Super Poly with an opponent's monster with the Winda on your side of the field to turn off the special summoning effects if you feel like you're going to need it. At any time, again, you have the Triple Tactical Talents that you can drop to draw 2 more cards, which is an Ash and an Imperm. We just drew 2 more negates, so we're already set up. We have 1, 2, 3, and then we have the copy of our Winda on the field as well to stop the special summons, and you have set face down, you have the copy of the Super Poly to fusion summon away monsters from your opponent. So you have this really crazy field all over again. It's a very simple looking field, but it's very potent in what it's trying to do, which is what's really cool about the way the deck plays. I love this deck. It's so easy to learn. It's so fun to play, and the majority of the stuff that you play in this deck outside the Shaddoll core actually comes in the Megatons. Like all of the cards from the Dogmatika package are just in the Megatons. Like, well, that's really cool that you can pull all of those. The copies of them are just as monsters, they're not. And the Shaddoll monsters, some of them Shaddoll monsters are actually in there, which is what's really cool. The only thing that's not is the invoked cards, because you have the copies of like Schism in there, you have the other cards that you need in there, and you just go in for so many different cards in the Megatons with this particular deck to be able to grab them, like Triple Tactical Talents, and everything is in there. So let's go ahead and shuffle up the deck and see what we can do for the next one. So we're going to go ahead and draw, and we're going to draw into a copy of Ash, Ecclesia, a copy of Imperm, Magical Meltdown, and a copy of Effect Veiler. Again, Meltdown. So we're going to activate Meltdown, a copy of that, and we're going to grab Alistair. So that's just so crazy. Every hand we've drawn it. Every single one. We're going to add a copy of Alistair, normal summon him to your side of the field, and then we're going to add from deck to hand a copy of say, Invocation. And then once you add that copy of Invocation, you're going to shuffle up the deck. We're going to go into standard plays again, link it away, summon this. And then once you do Invocation, again, same thing all over again. And then once we do, we have this really good setup in hand where we have 3 hand traps, special summon out the copy of Ecclesia to your side of the field. And then you can use her effect to be able to grab from your deck to your hand your copy of Dogmatika Punishment if you want to grab that. Or you can grab your copy of Fleur-de-Lis. If you want to get that 4th negate in your hand, you can drop that copy of Fleur-de-Lis. Or if you want the double pop, you can do that. I usually prefer to get the double pop, to be honest with you guys, because I just really like that. Use the copy of Invocation, put that back in the deck, grab that copy of Alistair, and we went +3 with that hand because we have 5 cards in hand and we have 1 on the field. Set these 2 on our side of the field and then basically pass against the opponent with a Macabre negate of a monster effect. You have the Ecclesia that can't be destroyed by battle with monsters. They're special summon from the extra deck. You have the Imperm. This is 3 negates. This is negate right here. And your copy of Dogmatika Punishment is a double pop if you need it to be, or a search and a pop if you send Titanic Lad from the extra deck to the graveyard. This deck is absolutely crazy. I don't think I can ever not draw Alistair. That is just absolutely crazy. So just to show you guys, if you want to check out the deck profile, like I said, it's in the description. But look at this. You get to see all of the different ways that I have to get to Alistair in this deck. Right here. You have all of this to get straight to that card, which is why I'm drawing it every single hand, which is just so crazy because you have 7 Alistairs in the deck, because this is 3 right here, this is 3 right here, and then this is the 7th one right here. And then on top of that, you have Beast that you can fusion summon away to draw. And you have on top of that, you have the copies of Triple Tactical Talents, which gets you a draw 2 if you don't hit it. So every single hand that I'm opening up, I'm hitting Alistair because it's so easy to get to and you play so many copies of it. They're so good to just be able to instantly get into that card because you play so many different ways to get to it. That's what's just crazy about the Invoked package, is how many ways you can actually get to Alistair. So let's go ahead and do one more and just see what we can do for the last one. We've only had really one kind of bad hand if they stopped the Invoke or the Magical Meltdown. So for the next one, we're going to draw Imperm, Ecclesia, Schism this time, Ecclesia, and a Triple Tactical Talent. This is the first time in all of those test hands we've done we didn't hit Alistair. So we're going to go ahead and activate the effect, normal summon the Ecclesia, set the copy of Imperm. This is one of the weaker hands we've gotten. And then we're going to add from deck to hand a copy of Dogmatika Punishment. It's not even that weak. You still have all those plays that you can still do. We're going to add that copy of Dogmatika Punishment so we can send the Titanic Lad later. We're going to set that card to our side of the field. And we're going to pass. Our opponent can't really do all that much against this unless they summon a monster to their side of the field, like normal summon a monster or special summon from their hand. But we have the effect face down of that copy of Imperm that we can stop a monster effect. We have the Triple Tactical Talents that we can activate. And we have the copy of Dogmatika Punishment that if our opponent does try and go in for anything, Dogmatika Punishment, pop 2, because we can send the copy of our Nis to the graveyard, or we can send Titanic Lad to pop a monster with 2,500 or less attack. And then we're going to go ahead and search the deck during our opponent's end phase of a copy of Fleur-de-Lis, which is going to help us out because you're going to get that extra monster in your hand. So now that we got that in our hand, we're going to go ahead and draw, and let me guess. Nope, it's actually not. We're going to get into Dear Servant this time. So we're actually going to special summon out the copy of the Fleur-de-Lis to our side of the field in hopes that our opponent has a monster that's special summon from the extra deck. Normal summon the copy of Ecclesia to our side of the field, and then we can activate the copy of Nadir Servant on our side of the field to be able to send a monster from the extra deck to the graveyard, which we're going to actually send from our extra deck to the graveyard a copy of maybe a Pokelone. If this card is sent to the graveyard, and you get a Shadow card from your deck to your hand, and then discard a card. So we're actually going to send a Pokelone to the graveyard because it's going to give us more monsters that we can go into. You could have actually sent that with the copy of, instead of the Titanic Lab, but I wanted to get the copy of the Fleur-de-Lis, and you could have used it with the copy of the Schism to go in for a copy of, say, another card with your copy of your Ecclesia on the field. You could have gone for the Construct instead, which would have been another play. But we're going to send the copy of the Apokelone to the graveyard, and we're actually going to use the Apokelone to get us a draw, which is going to help us out. But we get to search that copy of Maximus first because we activated the copy of we activated the copy of that Nadir's Servant, which we're not going to be able to go into the extra deck, but that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and shuffle up the deck, and then now that we have, you can use the copy of the Apokalon to be able to grab a copy of a card and then put it in the graveyard, which I'm going to usually grab my copy of Beast to be able to then discard the copy of Beast to get a draw. So we're going to shuffle up the deck really quick, and we're going to draw, which we're going to draw into a copy of, hey, guess what? Meltdown. Activate Meltdown. And then we're going to get Alistair to hand. But we already normal summoned this turn because we normal summoned that copy of Ecclesia. But at this point, you basically don't even worry about it because you can special summon out the copy of this by banishing your copy of Apokalon. And then you can use this card's effect to be able to dump cards from the extra deck, which is just going to help you overall by sending this to the graveyard and stuff like that, and ripping your opponent's extra deck for 2 cards as well. And then you're set up for more plays later. So, as you guys can see, very crazy deck. Love the way it plays. It's absolutely absurd how good this deck is with all 3 of these engines running around in it. Dogmatika can basically be splashed in anything, and especially with them being light monsters, it just works out so well in this deck. The only thing that I really wish this deck would do is in the early game, I wish it was a little easier to go for Construct, but if you go second and you draw into your copy of, I will show you guys this quick little combo. If you go into your second turn and you activate the copy of Shaddoll Fusion and your opponent has a monster on the field, you can actually use something like a copy of Beast and a copy of, actually Windy. If you use like Ecclesia and a copy of, say, Windy, I see, where is she? You can actually use the effect of the Windy to special summon out your copy of Beast, summon Construct onto your side of the field. These will go to the graveyard. And then you can use the effect of Construct to dump to the graveyard Schism. And then once you dump Schism to the graveyard, you can link this away for a copy of, where is it? Gravity Controller. And then your copy of Construct will actually grab back the Schism. And then you can set the Schism on your field. And then during your opponent's next turn, you can activate the Schism and banish a Shaddoll or a Shaddoll monster plus another Shaddoll monster to summon out your copy of like another Construct to your side of the field. You do need a dark monster if you're going to do it, but this card has the ability that during the main phase you can fusion summon monster by banishing materials from your field or graveyard. So you can actually just get rid of this and leave the Construct in the graveyard, get rid of both of these during your opponent's turn, and summon out the Winda from your extra deck, and now your opponent can't special summon, and you've already popped a monster on their side of the field that's dark. And then you get to draw 2 and discard 1, and that's not even to say what else we had. And why does this deck want me to have Alistair so bad? Like, I just drew in a 2. What is this? Oh my goodness. Okay, so I think that's going to do it for this one because Alistair just really wants to be in my hand for this video. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. I feel like I need to play my copies of Alistair and more stuff because I'm drawing it in every hand. Like, I don't know what this is. Like, I'm just going to draw 1 random hand and just see if he comes to the hand. Like, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I already got it right there. And then, I hit him again. So I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below. It's a really fun deck to play around with. It absolutely does some insane stuff. And definitely give Jen some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such a crazy awesome deck. And I'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.